he likes the noise, but we should trust Kessie Jabin to deliver. People have had divergent views about what Mr. Kessie Jabin said. Listen to an excerpt of a conversation he had on Joy News on Newsfile. Listen to him.
It is because of such suggestions. That's why I characterize the timing as a luckless, one of luckless coincidence. Maybe if on my list in October 2022, I had called the professor first on my list, we wouldn't be saying this, would we? Or if I had waited and then in December 2023, if we are still in the course of the investigation, I had called him, we won't be talking about this, would we? But God forbid that I will be used to settle scores on behalf of someone or another. The government of the day does not and cannot instruct me to go after people or to embarrass them. No one has even tried that before.
And that was lawyer Kessie Jabin, who is a special prosecutor. I want to give you a sneak peek into what he said when he was asked really about the kind of respect or how he holds Professor Frimpong Boateng in his mind. This is what he had to say. Listen to him.
I respect the credentials of the professor, and I doff off my hat to him. You know very well, you know me personally, you know very well how and my life's trajectory. On another score, I'm an academician myself, and so I respect such people on all scores. I mean, his CV is unbelievable. I respect that. And I applaud him for that. But I have a charge to keep. The charge I have to keep is to the Republic of Ghana and to the public. I have been put in this position. Investigate corruption and corruption-related offenses. I've been put in this office to prosecute people who I deem to be culpable for such offenses. I have been put in this office to recover assets for the country. I have been put in this office to prevent corruption. These are the 4 tasks that I have until August 2028. Now, when a case comes before me, first, it's a preliminary investigation. I go under with my officers. Is there any substance to this matter? I'm answering your question. I'll come to it.
Sure.
Is there any substance to this matter? Now, when the preliminary investigation is over, I have certain options. One option is to say, there's no meat in this matter. Let us just file it away. Maybe one day it may not be cold. Another option open to me is that there is a lot of wisdom in opening a full investigation, and so we should do a broader and fuller inquiry into this matter. And this is where we are in terms of the fight against Galamsey. And when you are appearing before us, depending on what we deem to be the charges we are envisaging against you, depending on the nature of the evidence and what we deem to be the seriousness of it, we take action appropriately. I will state again, the public and any member of the public has the luxury to consecrate saints. But in consecrating your saints and your heroes, mind you again, I'm stating again, I am your conscience. I am the spirit of the nation, and the office stands for that. In the estimation of the office, there are no saints. In the estimation of the office, There are no heroes. Now, if I approach this job of fighting corruption, that there are some persons in the society who have attained the status of sainthood, we will lose the fight against corruption.
I think the argument is not that.
I'm coming there.
The argument is not that don't investigate such people, but your approach could be different.
Yes, I'm coming there.
If Professor Frimpong Boateng cannot attract self-recognizance bail, who else in this country will be deserving?
You see, it is coming back to what I keep saying. You have your saints. I don't have saints. In your estimation, the man is a saint. But from my angle, I treat no one as a saint. A lot of allegations, a lot of complaints. I am investigating a broad gamut of issues when it comes to Galamsey. The professor was the man in charge of this dissolved committee. The committee, as far as we're concerned, and the nature of the investigation we are engaged in right now, that the committee was at odds and it couldn't account for so many things. Now, first.
That was Kisi Jabin. He is the special prosecutor. 16 minutes after 80 on 3FM 92.7. We're joined on the phone line by Mr. Adam Senanu. He is with the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. Good morning, sir, and thank you very much for your time, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Great. Number one, what are your initial reactions to what the special prosecutor has been saying regarding the arrest and subsequent bailing of Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng? He mentions categorically that we may have our saints, but he doesn't see a saint. He sees everybody as being equal before him in the matter that he's investigating. What do you say?
I think that Mr. Kisi Ajabeng is trying to do as professional a job as he ought to, and nobody should begrudge him that. I actually anticipated that that's exactly what he would say. And truly, I mean, when you want to follow process, you've got to ensure that everybody is equal before the law. So I wasn't too surprised because I was aware they'd already investigated a number of people who had gone through the same process.
Right.
As it we were of being invited as persons of interest, arrested, caution, bailed. And I think that we just need to understand that those are systems. Part of the problem of our society is where you know someone who is your family member, and therefore the rules are bent or made, the process is made different for you. That's not how it is supposed to be done as far as the law is. So I'm glad he's spoken quickly. It means he's putting his thumbs on the pulse of the citizens, and therefore knew that many people were not too happy because of how we view Professor Frimpong Boateng. I also think that perhaps Prof himself was not adequately briefed on what this might involve at the OSP. And so it was a lot more traumatizing for him. He himself said he saw the event as legitimate, but he felt victimized. I think that even though Mr. Kisi Ajabeng has made his point, they probably want to think through the process again, to the extent that is there a way in which people you are inviting can have a little more insight as to what to expect. Right. That probably will help them not come and have the shock that maybe he was expecting to be told updates on the report that has been 2 years outstanding. And the next thing, he himself is being labeled, which I don't think that Kisi Ajabeng and the OSP had a choice, given the number of issues that are outstanding.
Well, so again, former ambassador to Canada, and former Attorney General Nia Ikweotu says he finds the arrest of Kwabena Frimpong Boateng, Prof, a bit bizarre because of the way and manner in which it was carried. Martin Amidu, Martin Pebu, who is a private legal practitioner, also insists that the arrest was standard because OSP did nothing wrong. Again, where do you stand?
So I align with Martin that I don't think the OSP has done anything wrong. And I think Prof is also doing his part as a responsible citizen, and we need to highlight that. writing the report in the first place, a report which normally ought not to have been leaked, because he gave us the highest level of government, expecting that they would understand the enormity of the issue and handle it that way, but it got leaked. That's unfortunate. I think that this is simply that Prof was not adequately briefed on what to expect when he gets there. Otherwise, process is process. We are all equal before the law. I don't think that the OSP has done anything wrong. I think all of us, at any point, if we are called there, should expect the same kind of treatment. He was not handcuffed, and he was not compelled to do anything else. I think this is a good education opportunity for all of us as citizens and Ghanaians.
I see. Joining us is also Mr. Vitus Azim. He is an anti-graft campaigner. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Great. Now, the Office of the Special Prosecutor, I'm sure you've been following the issues. Samson Ladiainen in that interview with the OSP asked if Professor Frimpong Boateng couldn't attract a self-recognizance bail, who else could? Was that a legitimate call, especially given the fact that people following this arrest, which was effected on the 16th, people are now raising lots and lots of questions? Was that a good thing that was done by the special prosecutor, do you think?
Well, I think that there are certain factors that you consider in deciding whether to grant somebody bail on self-recognizance or not. So if the professor met those conditions, then you have been given that privilege. But if you didn't meet those conditions, I think it's fine the way he was handled.
The OSP has come under a lot of fire from the public. Is it early days yet, or are the public justified in trying to suggest, for example, MP for North Tongue, Okujeto Ablakwa, suggests that the whistleblower has now become the victim? What do you say?
Well, that's what I also believe, that one, at least if the investigations ended up proving that Professor Boateng was involved himself in certain inappropriate behavior, some people would have been called first. But it appears he was the first person to be called and arrested from the public information. So in that case, yes, you think that, is it because he made this report and mentioned certain important people in society or in the hierarchy or in the government? Is that why he is being invited? Because I thought that, one, the president would have taken time to study the report, or at least refer it to an appropriate institution to study it and make some recommendations before any arrest can be made. Unfortunately, the presidency already dismissed the report as unfounded and all that. So what now the special prosecutor is doing tends to support what the presidency has said. And that is unfortunate, because the special prosecutor is supposed to be somehow not fully independent, but to have some amount of independence to carry out his work. And this is being influenced by pronouncements from the presidency. I say if that is the case, then definitely it's unfortunate. And that's why some of us have always called on the president to hesitate before making pronouncements on the allegations against his appointees. He should be the last to come out and say something about it, but not to be the first to come out and defend these people without doing any further investigation on the allegations.
Mr. Senano, the public are watching. You in civil society organizations are also watching. The press is watching and looking at the special prosecutor if this will be the game changer for it. But these investigations then obviously have to be in a timely manner. How much time do we have on our hands to be able to say this will be a feather in the cap of fighting corruption in this country?
Well, as you know, they say that the wheels of justice grind slowly, but they grind, and eventually you get an output. I'm aware that the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice had picked up some of these issues, investigated, and after 4 years, they gave a report, I think March this year, said they had no adverse findings against Prof and his son because they had come up in their radar.
That's right.
And so that took 4 years. The OSP informed all of us as Ghanaians long before Pastor Frimpong started speaking about this. I think it was late March or April this year. In October 2022, that they had begun investigations into the illegal mining and the interministerial committee issues. That's October 2022. I doubt that Pastor Frimpong was the first person they had invited and taken through an arrest, caution, and bail process. I suspect that the special prosecutor, based on legal processes, is unable to give names of other people who they have taken through this because it started in October 2022.
That's right.
I am hopeful that in their next report, because they have a 6-month cycle where they're supposed to report to the public on what is going on, perhaps we may get some further and better particulars. But beyond that, your guess is as good as mine as to when they'll get to a point where they'll say they have drawn a full conclusion. What would be interesting, I believe, to many of us is to also get a copy of the charge report and find out the scope of what they investigated and whether the same issues that are currently before the OSP are the things they looked into and perhaps which angles they took on board. Otherwise, I think that it's early days. Let's keep watching. Let's expect that the OSP will continue to do his job. I think it is a good thing when all of us know that they will treat everybody equally. To that extent, then the high and mighty will also go through the same process, and it is good for Ghana.
I see. Mr. Azim, again, the report, the 35-page report by Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng has generated a lot of public conversation. We know that the president has asked the police CID to be investigating. The OSP is also investigating. This brings a pull and push effect, really. Shouldn't the investigation be synchronized?
Definitely, I have always held the view that we should not duplicate efforts. And that when this is happening, it's like trying to muddy the waters. These are all state institutions giving specific mandates. Why would you refer a report to two state institutions to investigate more or less the same issues? So I think it is not proper. It has happened in the past, and sometimes there was a time that the then special prosecutor complained about the police not giving him some information that he wanted. And I think that that's not good for state institutions. They need to collaborate, they need to work together, avoid duplication of efforts, and provide share information for one institution to conduct the investigations.
Do you get a sense that this investigation, as is known, the wheels of justice grind slowly, may linger on for a very, very long time? Because this is not the first time the OSP is investigating corruption, but we do know that in most of the cases, conclusion has not been brought into the issues that the OSP has tried to investigate.
Definitely, it's going to take a very long time. If you listen to him on Saturday on Joy News, he said that the people that have been mentioned run into the hundreds. So if you are investigating about 100 people, let's give it to the minimum of 100. It's not going to take a 1 day or 1 year to do that. It will take quite some time. And again, that is an issue that raises concerns. Is it a way of trying to get an excuse for delaying the investigations? If they have not finished the investigation, how do they already arrive at the numbers of people that will need to be invited? So definitely it will delay. Whether it is a deliberate thing to throw up those numbers so that when they are delayed, they will be blamed, or it's a genuine situation, we don't know for now. But I can say that the investigation will delay.
Mr. Senano, this now brings the question. I've been engaging a few people on the streets, and they tell me that if the good old prof himself, a big wig within the NPP, former minister, respected surgeon, and all of that, could be in their minds dealt with in this manner for blowing the whistle, then let us be citizens and not spectators means nothing to them, because who are they really? They could be dealt a stiffer blow if they tried anything like blowing the whistle. What do you say to them?
Honestly, that is a very genuine concern. The data we already have on reporting of crimes and corruption in particular show that about 30% of Ghanaians citizens are not inclined to reporting. And the reasons are one of those. They think that you will be victimized. That's one. Two main reasons. One, that you'll be victimized. Two, that nothing will change. And it is the reason why I think that in fashioning out our approaches, that we need to keep that perception at the back of our minds and figure out how do we do things so that we don't already worsen a situation that is bad. So I can genuinely see many people looking at it from this angle. It doesn't matter that the law or legal processes are just being followed, but there are implications to that. So I think that how we manage these things, we need to be clear in our minds that we should be able to express what is positive. That for thing, that effort to write that report 2 years ago was a good thing. The fact that he's raised issues again is a good thing. However, perhaps at the time that he was managing the office, what are some of the things he ought to have done as soon as he recognized that things were going wrong? Not to wait for that long. Because you see, as a public officer, when you don't take timely actions, they can come back to haunt you. And I think that's part of the narrative that's going on now and makes it a little more complicated than it ought to have been.
Mr. Azim, what's your take on this matter? I'm asking that people now say they fear being victimized, because if this could be done to Prof, then they would rather keep quiet than blow the whistle, because they may not be too sure what could happen next to them. Arrests, and for them to be asked to be bailed, if their friends or whoever it is who desires to bail them cannot afford the amount of money that is being mentioned, then they will be behind bars in remand.
Yes, such actions, if we don't handle it quickly or early, it's likely to render the Whistleblower Act useless, like many other laws that have been rendered impracticable. Because there are two things. One, you are not even sure that if you report, the appropriate action will be taken on the allegations. But two, the fear of intimidation. Those two things are enough to discourage people from going to report, to make whistleblower reports on certain people. But thirdly, also remember that Professor Boateng has been sued. 1 million Ghana cedis.
Right.
So again, the poor man in the streets, even if you sue him for 500 cedis and he's found guilty, where will he get the money to pay? Apart from the fact he cannot get a lawyer to defend him, he cannot pay the cost of legal fees.
Right.
So these are genuine concerns that will scare people, ordinary Ghanaians, from blowing a whistle on people. And so it's going to actually harm the fight against corruption.
Again, I'll come back to you, Mr. Senanu. Professor Ransford Jampo had initially said that the special prosecutor needs to hasten slowly because Urashia ubeti to it if you go in hurriedly or in a speedily manner, you may miss the point. Was the prof justified in that comment?
Well, I am not in the habit of commenting on other people's comments because we have free speech. People can express their opinions, and usually it's the context of what they know
that will lead them to make comments, and I don't know what his context is. Having said that, I think it's important to know that this is apparently an administrative process internally. So when you go to the West, you go there as, I think there are three options. You either are invited as a witness, you are either invited as a person of interest or suspect, or you are invited as someone they want to hold discussions with. It's one of these two. In this instance, he was invited as a person of interest, and I think they have a laid out administrative internal process for this particular kind of person. It may not be something that is personal. It's not based on the individual. And to that extent, it is an administrative process. It's an abstract thing you must follow. Whoever was there was required to follow. I remember asking questions because I myself didn't believe he had been arrested. And then somebody from the West said to me, yes, that's the process. And that part of the process by law, you really have to touch the person physically. Otherwise, the law says you did not complete the arrest or it was not done right.
Right.
So I think there's a need to think through those internal processes and decide other things we can do so that the ordinary Ghanaian, in understanding it, recognizes that we don't take these actions lightly. At the same time, they should also not make it difficult for people to want to be responsible citizens.
Mr. Azim, we have zoomed into Bissue Jabin, Professor Frimpong Boateng, and matters arising, but let's zoom out and look at the Office of the Special Prosecutor itself. From your perspective as a CSO, this was an office set up and indeed a campaign promise by the Akufo-Addo-led administration to make sure that corruption was nipped in the bud. From Martin Amedu to Bissue Jabin, what would you say has been the biggest feat that the Office of the Special Prosecutor has achieved?
3FM 92.
I will find it very difficult to say what the Office of Special Prosecutor has achieved. Because, you see, when I'm assessing the work of an anti-corruption institution, I'm looking at the number of successful investigations that have been conducted, the number of successful prosecutions that have been obtained, and the amount of money that have been retrieved from those that have illegally taken those money. And I cannot, off my head, list up to 5 or 6 instances. Maybe it's yet to be reported to us, but I cannot list off my head those 5 instances. So, to me, it's difficult for me to say what the special prosecutor has achieved.
I see. Mr. Senano, we have enough evidence to convict former PPA boss. That's what Special Prosecutor told us. Ejenim Boateng Ejay is the name of the former PPA boss. We are not too sure what happened to him. Again, I ask you the same question as Mr. Azim. What would you say has been the key achievement of the Office of the Special Prosecutor, irrespective of the individuals that have been put in charge of that office?
I think that perhaps the notion that there's a new kid on the block and he might come after you, I think that would be the greatest achievement. And let me put it this way. When in a certain space or terrain, there appears to be a free-for-all, nobody supervising, nobody who is going to monitor and check, the rate at which resources will be dissipated and things could go wrong is more likely to be much higher than in a situation where certain agencies are there and they are keeping an eye on certain things. I think just the knowledge, which is obviously not the ultimate. So let me put it this way: it's not the ultimate what we will be looking for. I think Mr. Azim points out that yes, number of successful cases, amount of money retrieved, and what have you. But I think that just the fact that we have that office and it is taking an interest in issues. There are a number of issues that have come up
And it made us a lot more comfortable hearing that the OSP has taken the issue up. They started investigation, whether it was customs related, trade related, what have you. It's just the speed of delivery. And I think that comes back to all of us as citizens.
Right.
That office has been, as it was, starved of the logistics, starved of the resourcing financially. And so, yes, if you have multiple cases with several individuals to investigate, that is an uphill task.
Mr. Azim, again, I come to you. The Office of the Special Prosecutor has again come under heavy fire because of the perception that it is under strong political influence. Professor Jampo makes reference to the act that sets up the Office of the Special Prosecutor and how the Office of the Attorney General and all have to come in. Mr. Senanu has just mentioned the stifling of that office in terms of resources. Martin Abidu mentioned it in his corruption risk assessment, one of the bases for which he left office. Kissie Jabe himself has complained. Are we really serious in fighting corruption if all these things really are happening, considering the fact that this was a major campaign about promise?
Yeah, I think that we are not serious as a country in the fight against corruption. But having said that, virtually every institution in the country is starved of resource. Every institution in this country has some challenges. So it is left to the institution to prioritize its programs and activities such that you take those that can give you the quick wins, those that you can handle quickly to achieve results within the limited resources that you have. We cannot just say because we are starved of resources that there's political pressure, then we should just throw our hands into the air and relax. Otherwise, then we should dissolve that institution. So yes, granted, we starve of resources, both human and material, but as long as he exists, or the officer exists, we expect to see some outcomes of the existence of this the institution.
I see. Well, in wrapping up, Mr. Senanu, what confidence again can Ghanaians express? Be citizens, not spectators. We all want to see the end of corruption, but are we dreaming too wide, or are we being realistic in our thoughts if we think on that pattern?
I think that it is realistic to continue to want to fight corruption and minimize its, presence in our landscape. The countries that have made it in the Western corridors and elsewhere, they had about 200 years of working at democracy. We don't expect to have to spend the same 200 years getting there. But we see that good governance is never ever readily supplied. It must be constantly demanded. It's a lifestyle. It is absolutely a lifestyle that ideally, growing up, nurturing our young ones and ourselves,
right,
that mindset should simply be that we've got to continue to demand accountability. That is the way that you make a democracy and a nation thrive. And so ours as responsible citizens, as captured by Article 41, is to report any kinds of crime, especially in forms of corruption, and also to make sure that we are not party to it. And as long as many more of us are doing that, we will see the change that this country deserves.
Thank you. Mr. Azim, you have the final word. What do you say to Ghanaians who are interested in seeing the back of corruption with all the issues that have come up? What would you tell them?
Well, as I said, we cannot just throw our hands into the air and give up. We must continue to strive in the fight against corruption. And in trying to strive, as citizens and Ghanaians, we must put more pressure on the political leadership. Both the technocrats and the politicians have a role to play in curbing corruption. But both groups are not doing enough. And that's why we are engulfed by corruption. But as citizens, Even though we may not have confidence in the institutions to handle our reports, even though we may fear intimidation, we may fear legal actions, we need to work together. Maybe they say there's voice in power, and there's power in voice.
That's right.
Citizens need to come together and talk. If you are walking alone and demonstrating, nobody will mind you, or they can easily be pushed aside. But if we can come together, like when the civil society groups went to court about the Bissue case, they finally won. So maybe that's the way to go. Demonstrations and going to court, issuing clear statements, and calling on government to do certain things. Workers' unions are very effective when it comes to fighting for their conditions service. But they don't fight much when it comes to issues of corruption. And that's an area that they need to do because they are very strong force to record with. No government wants to have key institutions going on strike. Doctors and nurses going on strike. Teachers going on strike. It will make the government very unpopular. And so these workers groups need to begin to start looking at corruption issues and threatening strike and other actions if government does not do anything about it.
I see.
Because this is what has led to the current economic crisis that we are facing today. And so it affects virtually everybody.
I thank you very much indeed for your time, gentlemen. I'm grateful that you could spend your morning with us. Edem Senanu is with the Citizens Movement Against Corruption, and also Vitis Azim is a very well-known anti-graft campaigner. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. Good morning.
Good morning. You're welcome.
Great.
Sunrise.